Guests and staff, and Councillor Gallagher is going to put down his phone. Excellent. Okay, welcome to the meeting of the Growth and Infrastructure Committee. There's a lot on at the moment, so we're going to try and move through the committee meeting today as quickly as we can within reason. So I'm going to declare the meeting open. I'm going to call for apologies, and I've got Councillor O'Leary for lateness, and the Mayor for lateness, Mayor Andrew. So are there any other apologies? I don't think so. Oh, James, has anyone heard from Councillor Casson? Yeah, Councillor Casson is just walking up the corridor, so he's there, good. Okay, so I'll move that the apologies be accepted, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favour, against, carried. Councillors, just confirming the agenda, you should all have the sheet blue and a little bit of pink on it in front of you, which has got a reordered version of the agenda. So I'm just hoping that councillors are happy with that. Essentially what we're doing is the two speakers in the public forum are speaking to a particular item or in relation to particular items 7 and 10, both following. So we're going to have them immediately following the public forum so that it's efficient for the people that are here in the audience on that subject, so that they can follow the debates right through for those next two items. Apart from that, we're planning to have a lunch break around the middle of the day and back to start at 1:30, so time the start of the lunch break, but 12:30, 12:45 or something like that beforehand, because we have someone that's not available until 1:30 for a couple of these items that are in here. So apart from that, those sort of notes, I'll move that the agenda be confirmed, seconded by Leo. Those in favour, against, carried. Thanks. Okay, so we're on to the declarations of interest. I have those. Has anyone got a declaration of interest on anything specific? If not, that's fine. I'll move on to the public forum now. So we've got Anna Casey-Cox and Anita Goodman. I'm not sure whether you're speaking together or separately. If you maybe both like to come up, Anna, to the table here, and any supporting items you might want to bring, or where are those? Okay, you might want to have a look at
the supporting people.
Yeah.
So
the Mayor's here. If up to you, but there's sort of 6 minutes, so if you want to do them together or separately, that's either way is fine.
Anna. Yeah, we're talking separately, but
okay.
Yeah, thank you for. We can both sit here. That's good. Tēnā koutou katoa, tuatahi he mihi ki ngā atua nui I ngā wā katoa, tuarua ngā mihi kia korua ko Himi May, ko Troy Kelly, mō te korua whakaro me moe a parakori. Ngā mihi, ngā mihi. Tua toru he mihi kia mātou mō te tautoko. Ko Anna tuku ingoa. So my name is Anna and I'm from Go Eco Community, here to support Hemi, May and Troy with a petition that they've put forward to recycle plastics 1 through 7 in Hamilton City. And so Go Eco and all of the networks that we connect to and work with in the space of environmental justice are here to support Hemi, May and Troy, not here physically but here with us. We represent them. Just prior to the meeting, we hand over the petition to the councillors who are part of the Waste Minimisation Task Force, and I want to acknowledge their ongoing work and commitment to being ambitious around reducing waste in Hamilton. And I also want to acknowledge Councillor Angela O'Leary for her work as part of the curbside recycling working group, and her passion to also see more curbside recycling happening in Hamilton. There's a lot of energy for change at the moment around the country, a lot of movements around reducing the use of plastic bags, and we see this commitment to increasing the volume of recycling in Hamilton as building on that real energy for change. And we know that there'll be some councillors who are concerned with the commodity markets of plastic and how that may affect whether or not it's financially viable to collect the plastic. However, we think we want to support, what we are most concerned with is supporting behaviour change and supporting the public to do what they want to do, which is to make a real commitment to reducing waste in our community. We don't want to keep on filling up our landfills. And I want to acknowledge the people that are here. I want to acknowledge Anita for coming along today. A lot of people have taken time off out of work to come here. It's difficult to be part of this democratic process, so I want to acknowledge that they have done that and taken time to do that, and acknowledge in particular Hemi's whānau who are here today to support her in what she is calling for. Ultimately we do want to make recycling more financially viable in New Zealand, and we think the Council has a role in terms of advocacy to central government to have more onshore processing for recycling in New Zealand. But recycling generally just offers us the opportunity to do more waste minimisation and to do a better job of it. It has the potential to create jobs for those who are concerned with economy and how that works. We know that when we prevent waste and do waste minimisation, we can create 6 to 8 jobs compared to the 1 that we might create when we send all that to landfill. So, kia ora.
Thanks. Maybe we'll have questions at the end of both of you? Yeah, that's all right. Anita, thanks.
Good morning, councillors. As you heard, I'm Anita Goodman. Before I begin, I need to disclose I currently hold a casual employment contract with Hamilton City Council as a promotions assistant with H3. I have not had any involvement with aspects of waste management in my capacity as an employee. I've been a Hamilton City ratepayer the past 9 years and a ratepayer of multiple properties across Hamilton the past 5 years. I appreciate having my voice heard, both as a ratepayer and a member of our Hamilton community. I'm here this morning to talk in support of Troy, Hemi May and Go Eco's petition to have plastics 1 to 7 included with recycling to help our waste to landfill. I'm also here to share my personal opinion on waste and to talk for others in my peer group. I represent hundreds of people I know, and hundreds more in turn they know, who would like to see Hamilton City Council recycle more plastics with our collection. Many people who support the change cannot attend this meeting due to personal career options and other personal obligations. I understand at the time our current plan was put in place, recycling plastics other than 1 and 2 was not feasible. But it is still frustrating when people in neighbouring districts, such as Waipa District Council, less than 11 kilometres from my home, can recycle plastics 1 to 7 and I cannot. Most of the time, I simply do not purchase these products that cannot be recycled in our current plan. The curbside collection for my household, consisting of 2 dogs and 2 adults, has amassed less than 1 council recycling crate and 1 black sack per month. We grow the majority of our food and compost our organic waste in our home compost. I have plans for us to reduce our waste to 1 black sack and 1 recycling crate per quarter by 2019 and 1 per 6 months by 2020. We live a fantastic, busy, modern lifestyle in a lovely home only 5 minutes drive from the CBD. I, like others, do not support the proposed introduction of wheeled bins, primarily because of the space they will take up, especially for a household such as mine with a low waste output. There are thousands of households like this and many more going in this direction. I support the concept of a user pay system and households being able to opt for smaller bins and fewer pickups. However, this is secondary to a very real fear this will lead to illegal rubbish dumping. For people who are not on the same waste reduction pathway as me, recycling is a great way to start. I believe waste reduction firstly lies with the consumer, then manufacturers or government policy, and lastly with the local council. However, I also know local council can greatly influence the public and policies. Extending recyclable plastic collection will not only help reduce the city's waste to landfill, but will also be a fantastic opportunity to launch new initiatives to reduce waste before it needs recycling or dumping. There are many individuals like myself and groups like Go Eco who are educating others on waste reduction. In summary, I would like to support plastics 1 to 7 being included with recycling and the council finding the best financial, practical and environmental option to reduce our waste. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks, Anna and Anita. Look, we've got questions now, and I've got Gary first, then Paula and Siggy. Just note, councillors, we're not going to be discussing today or at any stage in this meeting anything other than the plastics 1 to 7 recycling. We're not going to be discussing the issue of wheelie bins or the contract that councillors in the throes of entering into, because that's for a different day and different time. In fact, may well get discussed tomorrow, but today we're receiving the petition and discussing the issues related to that. So Gary, thanks.
Thanks for your submissions. The staff report tells us that the market for the 3 to 7 plastics, which is, I think, primarily China, has stopped or is no longer welcoming or no longer economic. Do you think we should continue on with the, well, you're wanting to have this stuff recycled. At what economic cost do we accept that?
Well, my understanding from Charlotte is that, and I want to acknowledge all the work that she does do. She's been so helpful in questions that we've got about services, etc. So I just want to acknowledge her good work. But it's not good. The plastics are being collected already, 1s and 2s. So my understanding from Charlotte is that it wouldn't be a significant cost to collect the 1 to 3 to 7. What then happens once that's collected is dependent on commodity markets, which is what she's written about. That changes, that's variable, that will be influenced by a number of things that none of us could really predict, perhaps. So I guess it's about, from our perspective, supporting the community's request to not send waste to landfill and to make better use of the plastic. We could, with the central government support, create more onshore processing facilities. I'm not an expert in what that might involve or look like, but it seems as if there would be some opportunities. Extreme Waste in Raglan is doing some amazing things around waste reduction, not related to plastic, in terms of what they've got on the radar next, but there's new things coming out all the time in terms of how we can manage plastics. Plus, we need to remember that we've got to push the manufacturers to not, to look at sustainable packaging. So there's a lot of things we need to do, and this is just one component of it.
Would it be irresponsible for us to go down this line when we know that there is no use for these recycling, these other plastics at the moment? I know you say it might change, but we're dealing with people's money here, your money.
Yeah, so I guess the issue is there will be, potentially stockpiling of the plastics until the market, provides the opportunity for it. So again, this is just part of the changes that are needed. We need to change how the amount of plastic that we're using as well, and that would be our primary message overall, is to reduce the use of plastic in the first instance. And that's something that Council can certainly join with us in advocating for. But I mean, commodity markets, I think, are unpredictable, but I'm not a business person. I think the issue is we can't just keep on sending this stuff to landfill. That's irresponsible.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Paula, please.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Are you, either of you, aware of what happens to the plastics that Waipa collect? They do collect more. Where does it go?
Sorry, no, I'm not familiar with what happens at this point. Charlotte might know more.
Well,
okay. Well, I can refer
Yeah.
back to that, because I am interested. I know that China, for example, is taking less plastic, so we still have that. What do we do when we collect it? Challenge, don't we?
It is a challenge.
It is a challenge. Just in going on from there, I know that I don't want to go off topic, but in respect to plastics, do you think that this council could, what you're saying, this council could do more to work on the avoidance of waste and reuse of waste before we get to the recycling and disposal? Is that what you're suggesting?
I believe that is primarily on the consumer, but the council can play a big part in that. As I said, we, by 2019, will have less than one council recycling crate of the current size per quarter, and one bag of rubbish. By 2020, that'll be down to one every 6 months. People like me can help educate more people on how to do that. It hasn't actually been that hard. It's just been simple changes in our lifestyle, and we still have an amazing lifestyle.
So council has a role in education as well?
Definitely, a huge role in education.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Siggy, please.
Thank you so much. That was a great talk of both of you. Lovely to see you again, Anita.
Nice to see you too.
Just wondering, how fast would you like to get us to get started with that?
Well, I understand the contracts are up for renewal in, 2019, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
There's,
guess
Anna,
there's
sorry.
going to be some...
Anna, sorry, there's a proposal today that they be extended to 2020.
2020, yeah.
But
Okay.
so that's coming up after that, after this.
Right, so yeah, we wouldn't be in favour of that. We would like to see it implemented as soon as possible.
As soon as
Yeah.
possible, thank you. The other question is just, and following on from Councillor Mallard, is where do we put the plastic? Do you see by changing the behaviour of people, they also will be aware of how much more plastic they're actually generating and will be changing their behaviour? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22. I think you need to do both. We need to do the education, as Anita said, so that people are more aware of what they can do to reduce their use of plastic from the outset, because that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Because recycling, because it isn't a panacea, because it depends on those commodity markets to deal with it, you know, in the end, and it never goes away. You know, it's not a product that is recyclable indefinitely. So it's not an ideal product in that way. So we need to look at other ways of packaging things and less packaging.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of the questions. Thanks very much, Anita and Anna.
Yep.
And we're going to stay on the same subject, so please stay and listen to the next couple of items, which are in this area. Thanks for your presentations. Do we need to vote for them to accept? Okay, so we're on to item 7 now, councillors, which starts on page 16, and that's the presentation of the petition on collection of plastics 1 to 7 by Troy and Hemi May. So, who's coming for Hemi May?
So firstly, I'll present the petition. Do I give that to you?
Why don't you give it to the chair of the Waste Minimisation Committee, and he can, Mark Bunting there, Councillor Mark. Yep. And then you've got 5 minutes to talk to that, and Mark will give it to staff later on who'll put it into the system officially. Yep. Okay, all yours.
Thank you.
Accept that?
We will. That's
Oh,
the,
okay,
that's
it's
the
part of-
resolution
okay,
in here,
thank you,
Gary,
thank you.
which I'll come to. I'll put on the
No,
table
fine, that's
straight
all I need.
after the talk, if that's all right. Thanks.
Thank you. Tēnā tātou katoa. My name is Hemi May Cully and I'm here to present our petition, Recycle All Plastics, Hamilton City Council. I've been a Hamilton ratepayer and resident for 6 years. I'm presenting on behalf of myself and my husband, who unfortunately cannot be here as he is at training for his new job as a lay advocate. I also speak on behalf of everyone that cannot be here due to one reason or another.
Yeah, can you?
Before I begin, I would like to thank the council members who have worked really hard to put the new waste minimisation management plan and proposal into place. It's really encouraging to see council valuing waste minimisation. I'd also like to thank the council for making time for us, the residents, to be heard. And a big thank you to Go Eco for all the hard work they do to promote waste minimisation within our community and for all the support they've given us for this petition. Basically, we would like to see all plastics labelled 1 to 7 recycled curbside within Hamilton. My family is on a journey to minimise our waste, and as part of our waste minimisation journey, we are trying to dramatically reduce the amount of plastic we buy. We would love to be able to recycle everything that we currently can't go without, and we would like to see less in landfill. I've always recycled plastic, paper, tin and glass. However, I believe my waste minimisation journey was sparked when I attended a waste-free parenting workshop in May. Since then, I've had a strong interest in waste minimisation and have attended many more workshops. I left the waste-free parenting workshop wanting to know more and wanting to do more to reduce my waste. At the workshop, I was informed that Hamilton City Council does not recycle plastics that are not marked 1 and 2, and I've been here for 6 years. I had previously lived in Auckland and Christchurch, both of whom recycle all plastics 1 to 7. I had received no information to inform me otherwise. After discovering that Hamilton only recycles plastics 1 and 2, I spoke to a number of Hamilton residents and found that there was an overall misunderstanding and confusion of what can and can't be recycled curbside within Hamilton. As a resident, I would love to receive an A4 page showing me what is recyclable and how to recycle it. I know many Hamilton families that would be able to recycle more effectively if this was to happen. And a lot of our people are busy with work and other commitments. I believe it's important for us to provide the waste minimisation information to help individuals and families engage in waste minimisation. Recycling all plastics 1 through to 7 would be a great opportunity to start educating ourselves as a city on how to better manage our waste. Recycling all plastics would be a great change for our city, and it would encourage waste minimisation among our residents. With this initiative, an overall whakaaro of waste minimisation can be introduced to all our residents, and it's an opportunity to begin re-educating ourselves, not only in the way we think about our waste, but the way we treat our waste and what we do with it. If we increase the amount we recycle, we reduce the amount going into landfill, and less landfills means less pollution to our whenua and to our waterways, and it means better care for our natural resources. Also, as Anna's already stated, as Hamilton already has a curbside collection system, there would be little cost involved in implementing curbside collection of plastics 1 through to 7, so why not implement it? The other thing I'd like to say in regards to what you said, Gary, is if we did have a large supply of plastics ready to be used, that creates potential for new businesses to come in and use that. I mean, I've seen floorboards created from recycled plastic. So if we're encouraging reusing it, then we can see who can use it and how they can. And I'd like to thank everyone for your time, your consideration, and the hard work everyone here puts forward for Hamilton. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Hemi May. Questions now, councillors, and then we'll go on to the receiving part. So are there any other questions? Oh, sorry, I've got, my apologies, Gary, you. Yep.
It's not so much to you, it's regarding the staff recommendation.
We're going to have staff address us later, Gary, if you specifically want to ask them.
Okay, I guess I'm just, if you look at page 16 of our agenda,
Yep.
2B, notes
Yes.
a proposal has been presented. This isn't the proposal, this is your petition, isn't it? And there's a proposal that's in the stuff we're talking about tomorrow, I think.
Yes.
That includes the 7 of recycling 1 to 7, does it?
Yes.
Okay,
I
right, thank you.
understand.
That makes sense then, yeah.
We'll certainly get that clarified, Gary, exactly.
Okay.
But I've noted that 2B is perhaps at odds with what the request is from the petitioners.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Recycling, I think, and I might be wrong here, is predicated on reducing rubbish to landfill, is that right? That's the primary reason for doing it? Well, that's one of the primary reasons for doing it.
Yes, that's my primary reason for doing it.
Okay, so it's not about the economics of the business, it's about reducing waste to landfill.
For me it is,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, what's the problem with landfill?
So landfill is really bad because it leaches, So what happens is a lot of
Don't we put there's a
Gary,
whole lot
sorry,
of science in it.
Gary, let her answer. I'll let you keep going, but let her get the answer out.
So we've got landfills that are 50 years old now, and those aren't. Although yes, they've been lined with 1.5 metres, there are places where they are leaching and they're getting into our waterways. I've heard back at home, well, not directly in my home, but towards where I live, in Mangere, in the harbour, because of the landfills, the old landfills that are near there, you can't see them anymore, but they're leaching into the harbour and it's affecting the shellfish, which people are then eating. So it even comes directly back to us. When we're hurting the environment, it affects our food source.
And the important thing, I think, was you said that they're old landfills that were developed in 30, 40, 50 years ago.
But one day the landfills that are here today are going to be 100 years old. One day they're going to be 200 years old.
Presumably, we can't predict the future that much, but also presumably the new landfills or old landfills are being mitigated such that a lot of that stuff. I know I can remember a decade ago I think we pulled a whole lot of stuff out of Horror and put a big liner in the thing. So I guess my issue is there's another issue here, and that's the cost of all this sort of stuff. you're prepared to impose on the community an additional cost because of the recycling to reduce rubbish to landfill?
As a ratepayer, I'd be happy to pay slightly more to be able to
How much?
recycle all plastics. That's not up to me, is it? It's up to you guys.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I don't have a say in how much rates I pay. I pay what I'm told to pay.
Oh, if there were more like you.
That kept him quiet, yeah. Mark, thanks.
I'll just signal that I'd like to move A and B, and I'll wait for my question for the staff. Actually. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, so just to point on that, we've got about to come up on the wall a new, the staff recommendation here doesn't actually specifically include receiving the petition. So we're going to have A, receiving the report, B, receiving the petition, and what's down here as B is going to be a new C, because I understand there's going to be some difference about that potentially, so I'm doing them separately. That's one separately. Sorry? Well, I'm asking for A and B to be moved separately from C. Okay, so that's moved and seconded by Councillor Bunting in Southgate, which is just A and B. So that's the formality part of it. Is there any discussion on that? If not, I'll put A and B and we'll go on to C. Those in favour, by show of hands. Sorry.
When you going to ask the staff to also speak to this report?
Yes, in relation to C. That's the issue. Yeah. So, because I just wanted the formality out of the way first. My apologies, Rob, for that. I'll make that clear. Yep. So we're moving A and B. It's been moved by Councillors Bunting and Southgate, A and B, to receive the report and the petition. Those in favour raise their hands. Those against, and that's carried unanimously. Thanks. Now, so I'm wondering if Charlotte and who's coming up? Yeah, you, Trent, and I can't quite. Yeah, and the light behind the light's behind you, Trent. I can't see you. It was a halo.
That's me.
You present the petition, so you stay. Bring it. You can stay there as well. Because you caused the item to be on the agenda. So, look, and the issue in front of us is the rest of the report, and particularly item C there, which is no longer called C, but it's a bit down the bottom. And the question has been raised whether we want the petition is asking us to consider recycling 1 to 7 immediately or as soon as possible. The contract proposed is currently not due to start until 2019, but the next item has that extended by 1 year to 2020. So, background, Charlotte, I'm wondering if you or Trent want to speak to the staff report further than what we've seen down here. Yeah, okay. Speak into the mic when you do. I just heard that.
Sorry. I can answer some of the questions that were raised previously, if that would be...
Well, that would be a good start to the report, if you wouldn't mind, yeah.
So, in terms of the current issues around the market, so what's happened with the Green Sword program out of China is that they have put in place restrictions down on contamination level of what plastics are coming in.
Yep.
So that went down to 0.3%. They've now put that they're going to lift that up to 0.5%. And yes, that has affected markets, but for example, in Wiper at the moment, their product is still actually going into China because it is a very clean product that's being collected in Wiper. Other councils, for example, like Auckland and Christchurch, theirs are going into countries like Vietnam and Hong Kong and Thailand, where they're all being recycled into new products. The work that we mentioned in this report around Hamilton City Council being part of a working group is to look about onshore processing and what quality of product can be produced in New Zealand so we have a better quality export into that commodity market.
Right. Okay. So Gary, actually you had a question before that you wanted to ask, so I'll let you go first if that's all right, just to follow up that you want to ask staff.
It was about the economics of the thing, I think, which you're...
So you think Charlotte's covered?
Well, she's addressed it.
Yeah. Okay, Mark.
Thank you. Just following on from that, the cost of landfill, there's a report out at the moment that while we're paying essentially $10 a tonne to put stuff into the ground. There's a report sort of signalling that may go up significantly. Can you please tell us about that?
So there's been 2 studies done this year, one done by central government prior to the election and one done by an independent group which consisted of councils, waste industry, recycling companies, looking at what the future around landfill prices could be in New Zealand. They look globally around what has happened in other places around landfill pricing, and essentially New Zealand is one of the cheapest places in the developed world for landfill. And so they put in place 4 different scenarios looking at what that cost would be. Talking with the ministry and what they put out in their report, they are looking at the moment at expanding levy across more waste streams. So the levy only currently applies to 25% of landfills, of what's being deposited in landfills. So that's one area that's being looked at. In New South Wales, the landfill levy is $133 a tonne. We have 10. So there's a bit of a way to go, and it does look like into the future landfill levy rates will go up. We just don't know when or at what rate.
Okay, just crystal ball gazing a little bit. Is it conceivable that that rate could go up before potentially a contract that we put in could do anything about that?
It's hard to know because of the change in government,
Yeah.
but looking globally at what's been happening, they've all been increasing their landfill levy rates.
Right, okay. Is there anything else to do with it other than send it to China, Vietnam or Hong Kong? Like, for example, I've seen Sweden's importing people's rubbish to digest it, basically, to create energy.
Yep, so they have got policies in place in Europe around incineration, so waste to energy, essentially, where they look at that because of reducing landfill space, that they are an importer of waste purely on an energy policy perspective,
Yep.
Which is slightly different. There's definitely opportunities with recycling it into other products. That would probably be where the main focus is here. Going back to Gary's point around the economics of it, it's really important the quality of the product is maintained. So what we can then sell as an input rather than it being seen as a waste stream that we are selling.
Right.
That's the real critical thing for New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And just finally, at present, the first opportunity it looks like for us to collect those higher numbered plastics is when the new contract comes in. Is there any opportunity of us doing it beforehand, in your view? Doing it earlier?
Staff can definitely investigate that. There are some issues in the fact that our crates are quite small and they're already full of 1s and 2s, but I think we can investigate further. Don't know what the costs associated with our current collection mechanisms would be, because it's curb sorted.
Yep.
And whether the contractor would have that ability to do
Right, but people can actually have 2 recycle bins, can't they? Is that
They
right?
can, yeah,
Yeah,
currently.
cool. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillors, we're just getting a second alternative, if you like, put up, typed up at the moment. But so the proposal that's up, no longer up there, but is B in your papers, is that we make no change other than as part of the new contract, essentially. I'm going to put up from the chair, if there's a second, and I don't mind whether it's an amendment or the motion, proposal that we seek further information from staff as to the costs of incorporating collection of plastics, the costs and any other issues of plastics 3 to 7 on an annual basis within the current contract, so that we could have a look at that figure. So I'm going to move that from the chair. If there's a second, I was seconded by Councillor Bunting, but I'm going to ask if someone would like to, if others would like to move the existing B there as an amendment. Yeah, well, B is what's in front of you. Yeah. So really, one, find out what the costs are of doing it ahead of the new contract, or leave it to the new contract, knowing that that may well be pushed out to 2020 if we pass the resolution later on today. So that's Gary.
I just had a question about the issue here. Where would the resorting, okay, obviously 1 through 7, they need to be separated, do they?
3.
Somewhere along the process, somewhere along the chain, you have to take the 1s away from the 2s, away from the 3s, blah, blah, blah.
So you take the 1s and 2s up, and then the 3s and 7s are sold as mixed plastics, and they can then be either processed collectively
Yep.
or separately.
Yep.
But export out of New Zealand is predominantly of mixed plastics, which is your 3 to 7s all going together.
So at the moment, what actually happens on the curbside is a guy drives a truck up, stops, picks the little green thing out, this sort of thing goes on, and he's sorting by sight, I assume. That's a 1, that's a 2, and those other things, bugger it, they just stay in your bin if they're the wrong ones, or the pizza box or something like that. Okay. If this happened, what would actually happen on the street side?
We would have to work with the contractor
Yep.
on a current service model to see what would happen, how they would process it.
So we're not in la-la land here, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but is there going to be 7 different slots in his truck that he's going to be putting stuff into, is it?
It's probably unlikely. Imagine they would have an off-site facility where they would go back and do a further sort.
So likely you'd have the 1s and 2s, and then 3 till 7 might all be collected together, and then they'll be sorted again somewhere else.
That's how it's done in Waipa, for example, where they do
In
the
where?
curb, in Waipa district, where they do the curb sort. They have that on the truck. But like I said, 3s and 7s get bundled together, so you wouldn't need to be separating all 7 out.
Thank you.
So-
And sorry, and the other point was I was going to ask a question of you. What are you trying to do?
See up there, I'm moving and Councillor Bunting is seconding that we ask for information from staff on the costs and other issues. And
So sort of the implications of what I was just talking about,
Exactly.
because obviously there's some costs attached to all of these different
yes,
things. Yeah,
yes,
okay,
exactly.
okay,
The implications of that, cost-wise and organisationally.
Okay, yep.
For doing 3 to 7, that get reported back to the next meeting of this committee. And the alternative is, if someone wishes to move it, is what's down in front of you here and the second part up there, which is to not do anything until the new contract comes in.
Okay. What are the implications to this decision on the 10-year plan?
There may be some implications in that which would have to be, like any change that happens after the draft goes out, put in as a chief executive submission.
Okay, so the process we're going to go through the next 2 days, this will leapfrog that, and because it won't get done in time
No,
for that. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so it would,
that's how the
it
timing
would,
works.
it would in the mix when we ratify the thing.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
we'll have to make an
Hopefully.
assumption, which I imagine will be based on the existing contract situation. So what I'm suggesting.
So those two, sorry, Dave. So those two are not. They don't clash, do they? Those two work together. Those.
No, the second one, then the staff recommendation implies that we don't accept the petition except in so far as it's already part of the new contract.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the petition are asking for quicker action, if you like, than 2020. I think is the situation there. Sorry, so look, I'll let you think about that a while. We've got a couple more questions, Paula and Rob.
So this is to bring that forward to an LTP discussion? No.
No, it's...
So I don't see the notable difference, but anyway,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, the LTP discussion is tomorrow and the next day.
Yeah, no.
February 2018, the next Growth and Infrastructure Committee meeting is not the LTP discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the difference is that you're taking it away from being considered as part of the whole curbside review. You're taking it out of that and bringing it to your committee sooner.
No, I'm simply asking what the costs are on an annual basis for doing what the petitioners are asking us to do.
Yeah, I want to do what the petitioners are asking us to do. I'm just a bit confused because
Well-
I think there was a working party around the curbside service review, isn't there?
Yeah, let's get things clear. The petitioners have come from the community. They're entitled to ask anything. The Waste Minimisation Committee hasn't considered collection of plastics 3 to 7 except as part of the new contract, which does not start until 2020, presuming the next item goes through the agenda.
Okay.
So this is basically trying to find out what the implications are of moving ahead of that.
That's fine. I generally don't support things going outside
Well,
of
no,
the working party.
I'm not asking for speeches now. I'm asking for if someone wishes to move the amendment, that's the most happy, welcome to do that. And I've got a question also from Rob now.
Thanks, Chair. Look, my question is to Charlotte, given that you're already involved in a deep dive into the new contract and the fact that Waipa currently collects plastics 3 to 7, do you have any sort of inkling or indication as to what the likely cost might be to council, without committing you to this, so that we can get an idea in terms of of Councillor Chair McPherson's motion as to whether or not the costs would be prohibitive to bring this forward into a contract where we already have a set price, and varying that contract around almost at the end of the contract time, we might find that the existing contractor may come back to us with quite a prohibitive cost to do this. Sorry, it's a long question, but...
Could I jump in there, councillor, and answer that one? Look, I think it would be unfair of us to put a figure on that now, so we just don't know. We need time to go and talk to the contractor. It will be quite complicated, I think, in how they want to sort it, containers, etc. So if we put a figure on it now, it would just be a guess, and it could be wrong.
Okay, I didn't want to do that. I just really wanted to get an indication as to whether or not, you know, it's in a ballpark to do, or it's so remote that we're going to come back and say, look, the costs are going to be this much, and really there would be no appetite around the council table to fund that for that short period of time.
Probably the most significant challenge is that Waipa have a different contractor to our current incumbent.
Okay.
So they have a different methodology.
Yep.
So that's where our current contractor would have to change how they do things.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Rob, we tried to find out those figures and it wasn't possible to get a good steer, which is why I've proposed what I have. It's not ideal, I certainly accept. So councillors, we're not speaking to the resolution, we're checking questions. Yeah.
Question, if just to tidy it up procedurally, we could direct that through the task force? Is that right? Or I was just talking with Councillor Southgate there, who would be...
Well, I think
I
just think that'll complicate the motion. I think the staff will call on the assistance they need, and one would imagine they'd use the task force as a reference like they have for all the other things, but...
I certainly don't want to slow it down at all, but I just taking advice from...
I just concur with that. As staff, we would take it as a matter of course through the task force.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, are you happy with that, Paula?
Assurance is that the task force, because I don't see the point in having task force if you don't refer back to them.
Well, in actual fact, the task force officially ends, Paula, if you recall, at the Christmas time. So I just think that's complicating the issue now. Let's ask the staff to seek the information, and we can handle it. They'll handle it how they think best. I've
had assurance from General Manager. I'm happy with that one.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Rob. And is there a seconder to the amendment, which is that's Leo. So that's clear that they're moving the amendment, which says no quicker than we won't get into this quicker than the new contract would allow for. Okay, so we're going to go to debate now. I will just speak and write a reply. I won't speak to start with, so I'm opening that to the floor now. But perhaps first, Mark, did you want to speak as a seconder, and then Rob? You go first. Yeah.
I'm going to be supporting the motion, obviously. I think there's no harm in further information. This is a rapidly changing field. There's a lot more we can do with this material other than just send it overseas as well. There's a lot of work being done in the reuse space, and it's been, I'd like to pay tribute to the staff who've worked with the task force on this and educating us on this. It's a very exciting field, and opportunities are abundant. And of course, I rely on the council's wisdom if it does prove cost prohibitive to say, all right, let's just wait. We've got a contract in the offing, but if we've got the information, at least we'll know the opportunity. So I think it would be remiss of us not to explore it.
Thanks. Rob, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Look, just point of process. Why is the amendment up there?
The amendment's up there because it's been moved and seconded, and we're debating both of them together.
Who's the mover and the seconder?
Well, it hasn't been written up yet, but as announced before, Rob's the mover and Leo's the seconder.
Sorry, I didn't realise that. Can we get that up so we know who's on what and when?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Look, I'm speaking in favour of the amendment. I don't have a problem with asking staff to go and management to go back and perhaps follow the motion, but after spending the last 4 days working through 1,000 pages of long-term plan deliberations and anticipating what is likely to happen over the next 2 days, I think our whole of our staff and management team are going to be pretty busy over the next 2 or 3 months sorting through what we deliberate on the next 2 days. And I don't want that to be the reason why we shouldn't go back and seek those costs. But I believe that we're heading down, from what I've seen of the task force and the work that they've been doing, and the enthusiasm of the potential contractors for the new contract, I'm of a mind that we should be focusing on perhaps a number of important issues that are in our 10-year plan and using our staff and management resources to work through those over the next few months. So that's my reason for supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thanks. Gary's next.
Thank you. I'm supporting the motion. This is one of those issues, we'll hope everyone takes this the right way, but this is one of those issues where there's not a lot of heart and a lot of head. And I think it's really important that we have actual facts before we start making decisions. And if this is going to give us more facts about the cost of these issues, I think that's very important. As the submitters have said previously, and they're all sitting at the back now, these are, we're talking about commodity markets and they go up and down all over the place. I'm really concerned that we get a long-term economic and environmentally successful scheme out of this, rather than seeing something you've seen overseas without even understanding the implications of their situation. Someone talked about the cost of landfill of $110 or something in Australia. That's extraordinarily different than ours. So clearly there's a model that's going on in Australia which is totally different than our model here, and I think we need to understand those things a little more than we do at the moment.
Thanks, Gary. Paula, please.
Thank you. I was heartened by Chris's comment that it would come from the task force group, so I'll probably vote for the amendment. But I'm reluctant because I take on board the comments. I absolutely support Rob's comments. Our staff are flat tack, right up till the end of Christmas. Actually, I think I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go for the amendment. No disrespect to those people who would like the recycling done as quickly as possible. We all would too. The annual plan and other variations do provide the mechanism for that. It's got to be done properly. There is a working body around this who's been, as you acknowledged when the petition was presented, there's people working very hard on this, and I think the outcome is what we want is the same. But I just can't realistically put the staff under this much pressure in the next 3 weeks before Christmas, because I know how many hours they're putting in day and night at the moment to help us through the LTP. So sorry, but my intentions are good. I'm going to vote for the amendment.
Thanks. Siggy and then Mayor Andrew.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chair, I want to just support Councillor Bunting and Councillor McPherson, because it's, you know, we have to listen to the people out there, and the recycling is a big thing, and we haven't done much at all in Hamilton, and it's been yeah, not very good. So I think, and when so many people come and talk, and I've been in this position too many times, and in this chamber, and I think we need to listen. I understand the staff has got a lot to do, but I think this is a really important issue for Hamilton and overall for New Zealand, because we live on one planet. We can't actually ship anything out. We have to really make this work for our future generations. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Andrew.
Could I ask the Chair to ask the General Manager whether it's realistic for his staff to come back with his report by February?
Realistic in a time workload sense. I think that's a fair question since it's been raised. Andrew? I'm
sort of looking at my team as I answer this, but I think we can do that because I think we are going to put the ball in the contractor's court pretty quickly to do the work. So we'll just be asking him to give us a price to do that and nominate the issue. So I don't see that as a high workload for us to do that. I'm getting some nods from Charlotte there. So.
Thanks. Thanks. Yep. So no, we don't. We're in the middle of debate, so we get that's. Yeah, no. We're in the debate. So Andrew, did you want to continue on that?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. So if there's no other speakers, I'm just going to speak briefly and write a reply. First, I don't know how many people have seen the pictures that have been going around the international media at the moment of beaches and oceans littered with plastic, and obviously that's not every single square inch of it, but if you look in the wrong place, it certainly seems like it is, and it's becoming a major international issue, and some of that's descending on our shores, or we're contributing to it, so I think that's one aspect. Another one is that when we got our current recycling and rubbish collection contract in 2002, we were ahead of the game nationally. We were the first ones to actually start curbside recycling of 1 and 2. We were top notch then. Everyone else has caught up to us, and from the figures I see, 70% have passed us in terms of recycling, just because of the length of our contract. No fault of anyone. We've sort of said, okay, that's our 15-year contract, but now it's being extended to 17 and potentially 18 years, 2020, before the new contract kicks in. By that time, I think the 70% of councillors that collect all the plastics might be up to 80 or 90%, and we'll be almost the last man standing, as it were. So I think this is just an exercise in deciding what's involved and how much will it cost in going a bit ahead of that. When we decided to go with the new contract, that was going to be the middle of 2019 that it would start. The proposal in front of you later today is to extend that by a further year to 2020. That's another 2.5 years from now. So I'm really trying to find out if we can start 12 or 18 months earlier and what it would cost us. It's not ideal to come up at this time. Obviously, we'd prefer to have that factored into the LTP right from the start so we knew where we stood if we want to go down this way. We can't do that for time reasons, no one's fault again, but I'm saying let's have a look at it. If it comes back a figure that we decide to accept and it can be technically done, then we will need to put a late submission in ourselves to the annual plan so that it sort of comes in with the sort of wash-up changes that happen over the next 4 months or so before we actually finalise the LTP. So it is technically possible to do that, and we do that in the odd other area when things crop up during the time. So all of this can be done, but I think we need to know the facts about what it might cost and whether it's technically possible to do it before we make that decision. So I'm going to go to the board for the vote now, councillors. So if you'd like to do that, we're going to be voting on the amendment first, moved by Rob and Leo. So it's for or against the amendment, please.
The amendment is lost. 3 for, 8 against.
Thanks. Okay, we move to vote again on the board for the motion as it stands up there, moved by myself and Councillor Bunting. It's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, and thank you, Hemi May, and all the audience. Now, then, that's dealt with item 7, councillors and audience. We're going to go to item 10 now, which is the extension of the existing collection contracts. So that's page 68. If you'd like to move to that. Myra, you're going to do that? Can you, you're not on there, I don't think. Are you?
It's on. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Myri Porter, I'm the City Waters Manager. I've got the responsibility for the management and operation of the 3 waters and solid waste activity. That also includes the oversight of the rubbish and recycling curbside collection contracts and the operations at the Lincoln Street Refuse Transfer Station. With me today I've got Emily Botcher, who is the project manager for the new contract that is currently under negotiation, and also Trent Fowles, who is the contract manager for the existing contract. So I'm here to talk to you today about seeking approval to extend the current rubbish and recycling curbside collection contract and leases at the refuse transfer station for a period of 12 months. So I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Just a word, councillors, that we're not here debating the contract, simply whether it gets extended by a year or not. So please confine your questions and comments later to that. So, sorry, discussion is Rob first.
Thanks, Chair. I've just got one very quick question. Under paragraph 5, you talk in paragraph 5 about negotiations for the new contract. How long is the new contract likely to be for?
It's 10 years plus 1, so a total of 12 years.
For 12, and that plus one is at our
Discretion.
Yeah,
correct.
okay. Why is it a shorter time period than the previous 15-year contract, which appears to have, or could end up having gone for 18 or 19 years?
Just a brief, because you are straying into the whole contract thing, which we have done already.
Okay,
Rob.
okay.
But I'll allow just a quick answer. Please don't keep going down that line.
I suppose the question is, why is it shorter?
So we looked at various options. The minimum we could use is 7 years because that's the length of the trucks. Maximum is 2 truck lives, which is about 14 or 15 years, which is what we currently got. But we settled on, through expert advice, on 10 years, and that's the sort of the norm of a contract of this size in New Zealand.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Mark, and then Mayor Andrew.
Thank you. So in talking to the existing contractor, did they raise anything about the trucks wearing out or any renewal of equipment they have to do, or was it quite manageable for them to carry on for an extra year?
No, they're quite comfortable with the state of the assets at the moment.
Great, thank you. That's all I got.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks.
Just through the chair to the general manager, is there any wisdom in holding this vote off until we get an answer to the last motion that we voted on? But this doesn't kick in until June, and
Yep.
and there could be a change, and rather than it be a variation, we maybe to wrap this all up as one item.
Yeah, I think it's quite important for us to get this decision today, because we need to start talking to both the incoming contractor and the incumbent about the arrangements. So I don't see the two as linked. I think we can treat them as separate items, but it is really important for us in terms of the overall program today to get this decision that allows us with certainty to continue conversations with both the incumbent and the incoming contractor.
Note, Andrew, that the new contract, whenever it starts, includes 1 to 7 anyway.
But aren't we asking the same contractor to come back to us to consider and give us a price on what it would cost to take 1 to 7 now?
Yes.
And that's the same contract that we're about to
extend,
and surely we would be in a stronger position before we offer him a 2-year extension to know the answer to the first one, to the motion we voted on. It would give us a strong negotiation position that we'll give away as soon as we put this motion through today.
So just a couple of points. We won't be negotiating a 2-year extension. Like, we've already, with a council decision, negotiated a 1-year extension, and we have a firm offer of services to do that. The contractor has been really good and held his rates for us. We have an indication that he'll be prepared to hold his rates for the second extension. So we'd like to lock that in place. It'd be my view that we could talk to him separately about this as an add-on to the contractor. to the contract if council wanted to go down the plastic ones. But I just reiterate, it is really important for us program-wise to have this decision today.
Thank you.
Thanks. There's no other questions. We've got the recommendation under 2 there, which I'll move, seconded by Councillor Casson. Is there any discussion on that? If not, I'll put that to a show of hands. Those in favour? Anyone against? It's carried unanimously. Thanks. Thanks very much. And okay, councillors, we're going to go back into some semblance of normal order here to make the staff feel happy. We're going to do confirmation of the growth and infrastructure minutes on page 6. And just to get things started, I'll move that the minutes be accepted as a true and correct record, or whatever the proper wording is. And that's seconded again by James. So are there any issues that councillors have arising from the minutes in relation to their accuracy? If not, I'm going to put that resolution again to the show of hands. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. So that's the minutes confirmed. We're on to 6, the Chair's report, which is on page 13, starts on page 13. And noting that the future-proof strategy and the speed limit bylaw are both relate to items that are already on the agenda, so I don't expect we need any too much discussion, hopefully, on those, but because they're just my comments on that. And the Traffin's conference is effectively a report from me on matters that I observed while at the conference. So are there any questions on the report? If not, I'll move that it be received, seconded again by... Sorry. Sorry, Angela.
Sorry, no, not a question, actually, just a comment. Given that this is the last committee meeting for the year, just wanted to thank you for your chairing, and in particular, on behalf of the residents of Rotakauri Road, no, Baverstock Road, just wanted to thank in particular the Westwall councillors who have attended those meetings, and you. There is a bit of a wine celebration and ribbon cutting that is going to be organised when that's all finished. So thank you for that, and thank you for
Thanks for that. I think we should put that particular group's methods of winning friends and influencing councillors in a manual. Lots of cakes wins votes. Okay, so we get. Damn. Sorry, Paula.
Thank you. Just to follow on from that, I would also like to congratulate those councillors who did that work. Having just mentioning East-West split, though, most of the East Side people were unaware of those first 2 meetings until they were actually on, and I would have liked to support the work. But you did a good job without us, so that's fine. But I didn't know about it.
There weren't enough cakes for you.
Oh, I understand that. Lovely woman created such a spread. But look, at the end of the day, it's the outcome that matters. But I certainly would like to be involved in anything that goes forward on that. Pardon?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I didn't know about it.
Look, I think the truth of the matter is that none of those sorts of things are arranged as formal council activities. And it's really whichever councillor runs with the ball decides how it's going to be run from our end. So yes. So I think we'll listen to the desire for the cakes to be spread more widely in future. Okay. All right. So we've got a resolution that the Chair's report be received. That's seconded by James. Yes, thanks. Those in favour, against, carried. That's carried unanimously. Thanks. So we're on to the General Manager's report. This is, just looking at the time, this is about the earliest in the meeting we've ever had it. It's on page 40 it starts. And no, Kelvin is here today. He's crook yesterday. And who's starting? Chris?
Yeah, there's probably various people coming up for items. I can start with the first item, which is the Southern District's water supply agreement. So it's just a note to say that we're continuing to work on that with Waikato. We'll bring that back to growth and infrastructure early in the new year. So what we're trying to do is align the agreement with our high use water agreement, and we just haven't quite got there. It would probably be quite helpful to get through our 10-year plan meeting tomorrow as well and have a discussion on water prior to finalising our agreement with Waikato. So there's no, in my opinion, there's no risk in not signing this agreement too early in the next year. I'm happy to take any questions.
So are there any questions on that item? We'll do questions on each item, and if there are any changes to be made, we'll do that item by item. So if there's not on that, Chris, are there other?
Sorry, is this on the growth indicator, is it?
No, apologies. It's actually the second item. It's paragraph 7 to 10, Rob.
Okay, so have we done 4 till 6?
No, I'm going to come back to that.
Okay,
They're in Kelvin's area.
Okay,
so
that's
we'll
fine.
do them
That's
GM by GM, I think is easiest.
Just fallen asleep while
Yeah, I should have announced that.
Thank you.
So, Chris, you've got next the, what?
So the next item. So the next item for me is paragraph 16 to 19. Is just an update on the Access Hamilton Task Force. So look, that's a major item for discussion at council meeting tomorrow. So just missing from that report was we did have an extra task force meeting after the briefing on the 21st of November. Just to get our partners, Waikato Regional Council and NZTA around the table, just to check that they were still okay with the program going up to council and there were no issues raised and our partners are comfortable with the report coming to council. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Access Hamilton questions? Oh, sorry, we've got Paula.
Thank you, sorry. Access Hamilton, they're happy with the program. It's been worked through very collaboratively, so I guess that's no surprise. It's indicative, isn't it? So whether all of the funding will come in when we propose in Access Hamilton, that it might or won't be known. That will be considered over the lifetime of the implementation of that plan, won't it? I mean, just because Access Hamilton makes a pitch for things to happen and assumes some funding from NZTA doesn't necessarily mean that there will be.
That's absolutely correct. It's even probably more complicated than that because Access Hamilton is predicated on the 3 agencies completing a program of works that all work together to drive good outcomes. So what we're trying to do is line up Hamilton's program, if you like, with NZTA's program and also Regional Council's program. So all 3 organisations are going through a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
So we've discussed this through the development of the process, and there may be the need to circle back at our measures and targets once the 3 organisations have lined up what they're prepared to fund. Okay, so it is a dynamic situation.
I think sorry, Paul, I was just going to say, as chair of the committee, the purpose right from the start has been to tie the other 2 agencies in as much as possible, which can't be legally done, but can be sort of morally and politically done by having them involved in setting that program right from day one.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. And of course, I've sat on the Regional Land Transport Committee for something like 12 years, so I understand how that process works. I was just wanting to flag that it is, like you say, we've still got to wait to see what other projects we're competing with for funding, and because this comes up for our discussion tomorrow and Thursday and whatever, and you know, it's a really comprehensive vision and list of projects, but I'm just alerting councillors through the question, I guess, that, you know, how long is the piece of string in actual terms? What will we get support for? It's a moving feast. Dave's right, we've got to influence as much as we can.
Thanks. Chris, so on to the Waste Task Force?
Yeah, sorry, just while we're on transport, I omitted to put an update on the Parking Task Force, so it's probably appropriate to do a verbal update on that. We had our last task force meeting on just last Friday on the 1st of December, so it was a bit late to get a written report in. So look, the parking new technology commenced 1 October. Through the month of November, we've had a soft launch and have been issuing warnings. We actually started enforcement on the 1st of December, so we're now into enforcement through the warnings. So yesterday we issued 35 infringements for overstays. At the task force meeting, we discussed the reporting framework to come back to council, and we'll be starting that. We'll be looking at a monthly report from the 7th working day of each month. That's to tie into our financials so we can have financial information, but we are looking at the discipline of a monthly report. We discussed at the task force the type of data they would like to see. So just making the point that we are now getting really excellent data and real-time data of what's happening in the CBD, and our challenge is we've got so much data, how do we present it and what's the most useful way to present it? So we indicated 2 sets of data there. We've got 4 precincts. Our main shopping ones are Precinct 2, which is London to Bryce Street, and the data is showing about just under 70% occupancy. So councillors will recall that 85% is the target that we're trying to achieve, is the sweet spot for parking. So we're about 70% there, and Precinct 3, which is Bryce to Hood, we're about 67%. So that's the sort of data we'll be able to present. We also showed that in one particular day, out of all of the parking events, about 97% of them were for people parking under the 2 hours, and there were 3% of the events for people parking over the 2 hours. So that's what we're using now to look at our enforcement regime. So look, we have had some minor problems with commissioning of our handhelds and the wardens and the device they have as they're going around, but the actual underlying technology is working really well, and we're just got some teething problems on the handhelds that we're working through at the moment. So at this point in time, everything is looking quite positive. The final point is that we're working with Calvin's group to look at the report to be a broader report, as we discussed in council, that not just about parking, but it's about other indicators for the vibrancy of the CBD, e.g. pedestrian counts and other sort of data. So that's the type of report that we'll be looking to coordinate with Calvin's group to come back.
Yeah, and just one of those that we can confirm is the pedestrian counts technology. We'll be able to have continuous data and monitoring on pedestrian counts as well. So we're just working that through in terms of its implementation, and so we thought we'd only have manual counts. We've now got continuous technology to enable us to do that. So we're working that through as well.
Thanks. Okay, Chris, sorry, the Waste Task Force. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Rob, didn't see
A
that.
question on the parking task force.
Yep.
As one of the reports, Chris, is it relatively easy to come back to us with some financial data as to what the actual revenue, now that we're issuing tickets and so forth, is it possible that that data could include financial data which will give us a little bit of a handle in terms of what revenue we are getting? I've heard that people are still feeding parking meters because they haven't read the information that's on the parking meter, that it's free for 2 hours. So we may not be losing as much revenue as we thought, and it will give us a good heads up as to how efficient enforcement is if we get some sort of feedback as to that revenue data.
Yeah, so the answer is absolutely. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but that's why we're targeting the report at the 7th working day of the month, so we can have the financial data coming through. So at this point in time, it does look like for the first month and into the second month that people have still been feeding the meters, but we're starting to see that drop off now as people understand the system. We're starting to see our infringements drop off as well. So there is data, and the report will have some analytics around that as well. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leo.
Chris, you said the technology showed 70% occupancy of the metered spaces, and from down the Hood was 67%. That would show that we have ample parking available in the CBD.
Yeah, what we talked about, that was on a precinct-wide basis. So what we want to drill down is to particular streets, because we think we know for streets like Barton Street, it's probably a lot higher than 85%. So we're just looking at a good way to present that data are maybe for streets that exceed 85%, so we can pick those out and show and indicate what our high demand streets are as well.
And
But 70% is good. It means that we've got capacity and there's enough parking if people are prepared to walk.
And how does that compare to the off-street parking and parking buildings? The occupancy rate?
Yeah, so what that's the other thing we are working on is incorporating some off-street sort of indicators in the report as well. So anecdotally, it's a bit hard because of coming into the Christmas period, but we're seeing an uptake in the off-street parking as well. So some people, I guess, who were previously used to park on the on-street have moved into the off-street parks, perhaps. So we're just trying to get some insights from that data as well to feed into the report.
And this information, it's only been gathered in the last few days, is that correct?
No, the data has been available since right from the beginning.
Of October?
Of October. So we've got, soon as the sensors were in, they were working pretty quickly. So there'd been a lot of commissioning in terms of some sensors are not working for some reason, so it's been just going through and getting the bugs out of the system. But the data's been available for some time now.
And the 35 infringement notices, that's just for overstayers. So there wouldn't have been any enforcement for time limits or anything like that for the last 2 months?
Yeah, we deliberately did a soft launch, so there were lots of warnings sort of issued for overstays, but we've still been enforcing other infringements such as warrants and regos, the traffic enforcement, but some illegal parking and stuff, etc., has been business as usual.
Thanks. Andrew, thanks.
Councillor Pascoe, through the Chair and General Manager, asked questions whether the subsidy that we pay for subsidising parking in our park in the other car parks needed to continue now that we've got free street parking, and I'm just wondering where you are with the feedback on that one.
Yes, we've certainly picked that up, and in particular with the references to the Garden Place car park. It is complicated in that we have an arrangement with the Centre Place Mall in terms of validation. So we're just working through that at the moment, and we'll be coming back to council on that. The issue is, now that we've got a free parking offer on the on-street, is it still appropriate to have a free parking offer in our off-street building? So that's the issue I think I picked up from Councillor Pascoe, and we're looking to come back to council on some information for it so council can have a view on that.
When are you coming back to us on that?
It would have to be in February now, the next Growth and Infrastructure Committee meeting.
Can you ensure that's on the agenda, Chair?
Yes.
It has been 6 weeks or 8 weeks since Councillor Pascoe pointed it out to the General Manager.
Get Amy to know. Yep.
Thank you.
Look, we'll continue on with Chris's items, the Waste Task Force and Gordonton Thomas Road, and then we'll take a break. And so we'll come back after the break.
Yep, I'll get Robin to come up on Gordonton Thomas Road. I'm happy to take any questions on the Waste Task Force. So we've had quite a big discussion about some components of that today.
So any questions on the waste? Sorry, Mark.
Briefly, I've kind of been caught napping actually when you mentioned that the task force ends at Christmas.
I think. I'm just certainly the other ones do.
Yeah, I'm trying to get onto my terms and references, but I can't get onto my OneDrive at the moment. Have we got access to when it does end? Because if it does end at Christmas, I'll be asking if the group will be happy for us to extend the work, because there's obviously a lot of work
What I
coming
thought
through.
I'd do with that, for all the task forces that are through this body, is get Leanne to sort out that information and bring it back to the council meeting. We can decide the delegations on what's the day, 14th of December, I think we're meeting on. So put it through there, any that may want to continue, and I know Access Hamilton's in the same boat. We don't have the information today. Sorry.
Sorry, Leanne, to give you that. Is that all right? Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, good. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Just through you, a further question on that, if I might. Leanne, would it be, it's only a matter of looking up the terms of reference, isn't it? It's not a big job to find out when the waste one is, because I don't want to put in...
As I said, Councillor Southgate, we have a list of the task force, their terms of reference and
so
their
that
expiry
could be
dates.
good. So the question is, could that be got to us by this afternoon, or does it? Because I mean, the council's quite big as it is without bringing more. I just wondered if we could know it, because I think Mark would like to move, therefore, that it could be an extension to the waste.
Well, I don't, sorry, Paula, I don't want them all done higgledy-piggledy. I want them done together, and we've already gone past some of the items on there. So I'm happy to bring it back after lunch if we can get the information for all of them in a systematic way, but we don't have it now.
I'd rather do it that way, and just if it is a list that can easily be produced, than to take it to council.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. The Gordonton Thomas Road situation, Chris, are you leading off on that, or Robin is?
So good morning, councillors. Basically, we'll take the report as read. We got notification through Facebook of the first crash that we've had since, to our awareness, since the variable speed limit went in place, but it was only a minor one, and I think all the comments on the Facebook talked about the fact that with everyone going slower, that there is more time to react, and if a crash does occur, then it is a minor one. So generally we are really happy with the way it's working. The speeds have continued to remain lower, to have dropped when the speed limit is working, but also even when it isn't, the speeds through the site are somewhat lower as well, which is really good for that site. So at this stage we're comfortable with how it's working.
Yep. Robin, just before we go to Gary's question, I had an approach from Waikato District Council yesterday asking that they be involved in the design work that's being done there, because one edge of that intersection is their land, the R2 area, and they're quite keen that we do a sort of an area wide, not just design that intersection, but look at the flow-on effects to Puketaha Road and Darjon Crescent entrances, and
Yes.
and also through the Spine Road, how that would work.
Yep, so that's certainly in the brief, and I know that the consultant has been working hard to try and get a meeting with the Waikato District to have that exact conversation.
Great, thanks. Gary, thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Paragraph 33, you talk about installation of temporary signals. What would trigger that? Obviously, a plethora of crashes would, but you've just had another one today, and small beer, this one you say, but
Yeah.
what are we looking at?
So we're looking at having either a trend start occurring where we're getting regular crashes, so we're not in that situation, or we have a serious crash, and again, we're not in that situation.
What's regular crashes? I know it's all subjective, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and part of it is the problem around reporting, so it's whether we hear about it. So we're certainly encouraging everyone to let us know. I would say if we're having a crash a week, we've got a problem. But it will be a matter of having a look at it and seeing, well, why did the crash occur? If it's a single vehicle loss of control crash, that's not really about the intersection, that's just a driving. So it'll have to be on a case by case.
Because we must have tons of intersections that never have a crash. Do we? Or not?
You have a lot of intersections that have a crash. Most of them are minor fender benders. People get out, talk to each other, exchange
And no one
details,
hears
and
about it.
carries on.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of that happening on a daily basis as well. So we really are worried about where people start having injuries, and that's what we're keen on tracking and preventing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, councillors, that's the end of the items in Chris's area, so what I thought we'd do is break now for morning tea for 10 minutes till 5 past, and we'll start, actually, rather than Kelvin's one, we'll start with the passenger transport report, because I see we've got the regional council here just in time for morning tea. Okay, so we'll break now, thanks.